Kyle laughed. Dude, you could set up the camera in the parking lot, do midnight kick flips off the curb, call it kick flips and taquitos, or 360 no-compliant gas station nachos. Jake chimed in. Better yet, Ryan added. If a customer wipes out on the oil slick near pump 3? Instant viral clip. Boom, millions of views. We all cracked up, throwing out more dumb ideas. Like filming a slushy chug challenge in the dead of night or trying to do board slides on the metal handrails outside. But deep down, I was actually considering it. I mean, I had to pay rent. Bohannon, my cat, wasn't going to buy his own food, and my savings were basically dust. So on Monday, I walked into Quick Trip, filled out an application, and got an interview on the spot. Larry, my new boss, looked like he had just escaped high school. Dude was maybe 19, rocking a corporate Quick Trip polo that was about 2 sizes too big for his scrawny frame. He had that permanent "I hate my life" energy and barely made eye contact when he spoke. So, do you have experience? He asked, clicking his pen like a nervous fidgeter. Yeah, bro. I mean, I can count money, run a register, make sick lattes in the self-serve machine. Also, I once ate a taquito that had been spinning for like 13 hours, so I think I qualify as a veteran. Larry blinked. Cool. You start tonight 10 to 6. Don't be late. And that was it. No formal training, no questions about my background. Nothing. Just boom. I was in. Honestly, the first night wasn't too bad. The usual weirdos rolled through. A group of drunk bikers stumbled in around 1 a.m. One dude tried grabbing a slushie but somehow managed to knock the entire cup into his lap. Next thing you know, he slipped on his own mess and wiped out hard in front of the hot dog roller. I tried not to laugh, but Kyle's voice was in my head. Instant viral clip, bro. Then around 3 a.m., a bunch of teenagers came in, each grabbing energy drinks, donuts, and yep, grape Swisher sweets. I rang them up and held up the Swishers. Yeah, I know what these are for, I said, raising an eyebrow. They all burst out laughing, grabbed their bags, and bolted before I could say anything else. By the time my shift ended, I was like, alright, this is easy money. Then night 2 happened. It was around 2 a.m. when he walked in. Tall dude, dressed in all black, hoodie, jeans, gloves. Gloves, bro. Who wears gloves in the middle of summer? He didn't say a word. Just walked straight to the slushie machine. I figured he'd grab a cup like a normal person. But nah, my dude bent over, shoved his entire head under the nozzle, and drank directly from the machine. What the hell? I stood there stunned, half expecting Larry to pop out from the back yelling, Bro, it's a prank! But this was not normal. After about 10 solid seconds of straight-up slushy waterfall to the face, he stood up, wiped his mouth, and just walked out. Didn't pay. Didn't look at me. Just vanished into the night like a gas station cryptid. I was about to call Larry, but then I remembered, Larry doesn't care. I chalked it up to drunk nonsense, and went about my shift. But then weird things started happening. The security cameras flickered. The radio station switched to static even though I never touched it. And then, there was a whisper right behind me. Bruce. I turned around so fast I almost knocked over the beef jerky display. Nobody was there. The store was empty. The doors hadn't opened since Slushy Man left. My stomach dropped. And that's when I saw it, a reflection in the freezer glass. A shape, standing right behind me. I stood frozen, staring at the freezer glass. The reflection was there, just a blurry human-shaped figure standing behind me. My stomach did that roller coaster drop, and I spun around so fast I nearly tripped over the mop bucket. But when I turned, nothing. The store was empty. The automatic doors hadn't opened. There was no ding of someone coming in or out, just silence. Except for the low hum of the slushy machine, still leaking a trail of blue goo from where that guy literally drank. From the nozzle, like a gas station cryptid, I took a deep breath. Okay, Bruce. Chill. You are tired. You are probably just tripping from too many energy drinks. I shook it off, but the uneasy feeling stayed in my chest. Then Larry showed up. At exactly 5:55 a.m., Larry dragged his tired, scrawny self into the store, looking like he had just rolled out of bed. He smelled like stale vape juice and regret. "Yo," I said, trying to sound normal. "Weird night." Larry barely looked up from his phone. "Yeah, whatever." I squinted at him. "Dude, a guy drank directly from the slushy machine." Larry shrugged. "Yeah, that happens." I stared at him. "What do you mean, that happens? Like this is a thing?" Instead of answering, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a crumpled piece of paper. "Oh yeah, almost forgot. These are the rules. You probably should have had them on night 1, but whatever. You made it, so you are fine." He dropped the paper on the counter and walked off to the back office like he hadn't just casually handed me a list of rules for surviving the night shift. I picked up the paper, already feeling my stomach drop. The handwriting was messy, scrawled in what looked like red ink. At least I hoped it was ink. Rules for the quick trip night shift, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. At exactly 1:13 a.m., check the security cameras. If you see someone standing in the aisle, staring at the floor, do not approach. Go to the back office and wait 5 minutes. If they are gone when you return, continue your shift. If they are still there, clock out and leave. If the radio suddenly turns to static, change the station immediately. If the static does not go away, turn the radio off. If you hear a voice coming through the static, do not listen. Cover your ears and hum until it stops. You may hear knocking from the freezer section between 2:30 and 3 a.m. Do not open it. Do not look inside. Ignore it. If a man in all black comes in and drinks from the slushy machine, let him. Do not speak to him. Do not acknowledge him. He will leave when he is done. If the front door is open but no one comes in, check the time. If it is 4:44 a.m., go to the bathroom and lock yourself inside for exactly 4 minutes. If you see someone outside the store after 3 a.m., do not let them in. They will try to convince you. They will not knock, beg, and sometimes cry. Do not let them in. Under no circumstances should you ever look into the reflection of the freezer glass after 2 a.m. I put the list down. My hands felt weirdly cold. Dude. I was supposed to get this yesterday. Hey Larry, I called out. A muffled voice came from the back room. What? I held up the paper. Is this like a joke? Larry peeked his head around the corner. Nope. Follow them or don't. Up to you, bro. Rule 4 literally describes what happened last night. The slushy guy. You knew that was going to happen and didn't tell me? Larry sighed, rubbing his eyes. Look, man. If I told every new hire what goes down at night, they'd quit before their first shift. You need the money, right? Just follow the rules and don't ask questions. And with that, he disappeared into the office again. I left my shift feeling weird, like really weird. The rules had an eerie way of explaining everything. Almost too well. It wasn't just random nonsense. They were specific. They felt real. I spent the day in my apartment, watching Bohannon bat at his toy mouse, while my brain kept looping back to the reflection in the freezer. Under no circumstances should you ever look into the reflection of the freezer glass after 2 a.m. But I had. And I had seen something I wasn't sure if I was ready for. I wasn't sure if I was ready for night 2. But rent was due, and my YouTube channel wasn't paying the bills. I showed up for my second shift at 10 p.m. sharp, and I was not feeling it the moment I walked in. Larry barely glanced up from his phone. Still alive? I muttered, tossing my skateboard behind the counter. You read the rules? He asked. Oh yeah, I said. Love the part where you forgot to tell me about them on night 1. That was cool. Larry smirked. You are still here, so obviously you did fine. I wanted to argue, but honestly, what was the point? Rent wasn't going to pay itself. I clocked in, grabbed a half-stale donut from the display, and got ready for another night of quick trip madness. And oh man, did things escalate fast. I was sweeping near the hot dog rollers when I remembered rule number 1. At exactly 1:13 a.m., check the security cameras. If you see someone standing in the aisles, staring at the floor, do not approach. Go to the back office and wait 5 minutes. If they are gone when you return, continue your shift. If they are still there, clock out and leave. I pulled out my phone, 2 a.m. I felt weirdly nervous, like the kind of nervous you get before dropping into a massive half-pipe. My stomach knotted up, and my palms felt sweaty. I walked over to the monitors, 1:13 a.m. I flipped through the camera feeds. Outside? Empty. Highway? Near the slushy machine? Nobody. Aisles? My heart dropped. A man stood in aisle 3, perfectly still. His head was bowed, staring at the floor. My first thought was that maybe he was just some weird customer, some dude in deep thought about whether he wanted peanut M&Ms or a Snickers bar. But then I noticed something wrong. He wasn't moving at all. No shifting weight. No casual glances. Nothing. Just frozen. And he wasn't holding anything. Dude was just standing there. A shiver ran down my spine. I suddenly felt very aware of how alone I was in this gas station. I looked toward aisle 3 from the counter. It was empty, but the camera still showed him standing there. My throat went dry. I checked the time, 1:14 a.m. My brain screamed at me, back office. Now. I bolted. I slammed the office door shut, locking it behind me. My breathing was way too loud, and I felt like I had just landed a bad kickflip and eaten pavement. 5 minutes. I just had to wait 5 minutes. I checked my phone, 1:15 a.m. From the other side of the door, I swore I heard footsteps, slow, deliberate, getting closer. I pressed my ear against the door, my heart hammering. Nothing. I checked my phone again, 1:16 a.m. I tapped my foot, counting the seconds in my head. 1:17, 1:18, 1:19. I gripped the doorknob. Please be gone. Please be gone. I took a deep breath, then slowly cracked the door open. The store door was empty. I exhaled hard, my body finally relaxing. I walked back out, checking aisle 3. No one there. I flipped to the security cameras. The man was gone. My shift continued as normal, like nothing ever happened. After that, I was wired. Every time the door chime rang, I nearly jumped out of my vans. The drunk bikers came back, but this time they didn't cause a scene. I think they were still embarrassed from the whole slushy wipeout situation. Some teens rolled through and stocked up on energy drinks and more Swishers. For a while, it almost felt normal. Until I heard the knocking. It was soft at first, a light tap, tap, tap coming from the freezer section. I felt my stomach twist. Rule number 3. You may hear knocking from the freezer section between 2:30 and 3 a.m. Do not open it. Do not look inside. Ignore it. I checked my phone, 2:58 a.m. Dude, I wanted to ignore it. I really did, but my curiosity was eating me alive. I turned my head just a little, and the knocking got louder. Nope. Nope. I turned my back to the freezers and started humming to myself, pretending like I didn't hear a thing. The knocking kept going, 2:59 a.m. It got faster, more desperate, like someone was trapped inside, like they were trying to get out. I squeezed my eyes shut. 13 more seconds. The knocking turned into pounding. I gritted my teeth, my heart racing. Then silence. I hesitated. I checked my phone, 3 a.m. It had stopped. I let out a shaky breath and turned back toward the freezers. Nothing. Just rows of sodas, energy drinks, and bottled water. But I swear to God, in the condensation on the glass, I could see handprints. And they weren't mine. I still had 3 more hours in my shift, but I was already so done. I kept glancing at the security monitors, half expecting to see the stander again. The radio crackled with static at 3:30 a.m., but I shut that off immediately. By the time Larry showed up. At 6 a.m., I was already grabbing my board and booking it for the exit. You good? Larry asked, yawning. I stopped and turned back to him. Hey man, do you ever hear knocking from the freezers? Larry smirked and sat down at the counter. Yep. He pulled out his vape, took a long drag, and exhaled a cloud of fruit-scented nonsense. And you never check it? I pressed him further. You don't even care? Larry chuckled. Nah. Why would I? You saw the rules. I stared at him for a second, then left. I should have quit then and there, but I came back for night 3. And that's when things got way worse. I don't know why I came back for night 3. I should have quit. I should have walked out after seeing those damn handprints in the freezer glass. But something about the whole thing. It was terrifying, yeah, but it was also weirdly addicting. Like when you land a perfect kickflip and almost stick it, but you bail at the last second. You need to land it. You need to try again. That's what working at Quick Trip felt like now. Except instead of perfecting my flip tricks, I was trying to make it through the night without completely losing my nerve. When I rolled in from my shift, Larry was already waiting. Dude, I'm impressed, he said, tossing me the keys. Most people quit after night 2. I caught them and shrugged. What can I say? I live for bad decisions. Larry snorted. Well, you survived the first couple of freak shows. Let's see how you do with tonight's special guest. I blinked, but before I could ask him what he meant, he clocked out, flipped me the bird, and walked out the door. I already hated everything about this. The night started out normal. A guy came in to microwave a gas station burrito for a solid 5 minutes before walking out without paying. Another dude bought 6 cans of Monster and looked like he was already on the verge of a heart attack. A trucker grabbed a coffee, nodded at me, and left without a word. I was getting comfortable. That was a mistake. Because at 3 a.m., the front doors opened. The chime went off, but nobody came in. A cold chill ran up my spine. Rule number 6. If you see someone outside the store after 3 a.m., do not let them in. They will try to convince you. They will knock, beg, and sometimes cry. I swallowed hard and slowly turned toward the doors. There he was. A man stood just outside, facing the glass, hands pressed against it. His face was shadowed under the flickering overhead lights, but I could tell something was wrong. His mouth hung open just slightly. His breath fogged the glass. I took a step back. The man knocked. Once. Twice. Then a third time. Slow, low, and deliberate. I tried to ignore him. I tried, but then he whispered, "Hey man, can you let me in? I just need to use the bathroom." My chest tightened. His voice was off. It was too smooth, like someone pretending to sound normal. Like a bad actor reading lines. I didn't move. The man knocked again, louder this time. "Come on, dude. Just real quick. You work here, right? Just let me in for a second." I shook my head, stepping further away from the door. Then his head twitched, hard, and his mouth stretched into a grin. Too wide. Way, way too wide. "Bruce." I nearly tripped over my own feet. He knew my name. I never told him my name. I bolted to the back office, slamming the door shut behind me. My heart was pounding so loud I thought it might explode. The knocking started again, slow, rhythmic, right outside the office door. "Let me in, man." I clenched my teeth, squeezing my eyes shut. "Ignore it. Ignore it. Ignore it." The knocking stopped. Silence. I checked my phone, 3 a.m. I counted to 10, my breath shaky. Then, cautiously, I opened the office door just a crack. The store was empty. The front doors were shut. The man was gone. But on the glass, written in smeared breath, were 3 words. "See you soon." By this point I was done. I kept my head down, refused to look at the security cameras, and avoided the freezer section like my life depended on it. It probably did. Then the front doors opened. I froze. But this time, someone actually walked in, a woman. She looked normal, probably in her late 30s, wearing yoga pants and a hoodie. She grabbed a pack of gum, a coffee, and came up to the counter. I forced a smile, trying not to sound completely on edge. Is that all for you? I asked. She nodded, sliding me a $10 bill. As I made change, I glanced at the clock, 4:43 a.m. That's when my stomach dropped. Rule number 5. If the front door is open but no one comes in, check the time. If it's 4:44 a.m., go to the bathroom and lock yourself inside for exactly 4 minutes. I looked back at the woman. She was staring at me. Her smile twitched. My hands went cold. The clock flipped to 4:44 a.m. I didn't hesitate. I sprinted to the bathroom, slammed the door shut, and locked it. My breath was ragged, my heart pounding against my ribs. Then outside I heard footsteps, slow, dragging, right outside the bathroom door. I backed up against the wall, gripping the sink. Then the knocking started. I covered my ears. The voice that followed wasn't human. It was layered, like two people speaking at once, one deep, one high-pitched. Bruce, you don't have to hide. I squeezed my eyes shut. The knocking continued. Come out. We just want to talk. I checked my phone, 4:47 a.m. Just one more minute. The doorknob started turning. I held my breath. 4:48 a.m. The knocking stopped. The footsteps faded. I waited, then slowly cracked the door open. The store was empty. The woman was gone. Everything looked normal, like nothing had happened. I stepped out shaking. The front doors were closed. The air smelled like stale coffee and gasoline. I glanced back at the bathroom mirror, and that's when I saw it, handprints all over the glass. Too many to count. I clocked out the second Larry walked in. Damn, bro, you look rough, he said, tossing me a Red Bull. I caught it, exhaling shakily. Larry, I muttered. I think I'm done. Larry just smirked. Yeah, he said, cracking open a drink. They all say that. I should have quit. I wanted to quit. But I needed the money. And something about the whole thing. It was like watching a horror movie where you have to know how it ends. So, like an absolute idiot, I showed up for night 4. Larry didn't even greet me when I walked in. He was sitting behind the counter, casually scrolling through his phone like the place wasn't haunted as hell. You keep coming back, he muttered, smirking. You must really love this job. I dropped my board behind the counter. Nah, I said. I just love suffering. Larry snorted. Fair. Anyway, have fun, bro. He clocked out, flipped me the bird, and left, like he always did. And just like always, things started going downhill fast. The first few hours were quiet. A couple of truckers grabbed coffee. Some dude wandered in to buy a pack of cigarettes, and literally fell asleep standing up at the counter. I was starting to think maybe, just maybe, I'd have a normal night. Then the slushy machine started dripping. A single drop of neon blue liquid plopped onto the counter. Then another. And another. I grabbed a rag and went to wipe it up when the front door slammed open. I jumped back. Standing there, dripping wet, was the slushy man. Same black hoodie. Same gloves. Same weird frozen expression. Except this time, his entire face was stained blue. His hoodie was soaked like he had just crawled out of the damn slushy machine. The store was completely silent. The only sound was the faint hum of the machines and the slow drip, drip, drip of slushy liquid hitting the floor. Then, in one slow, jerky motion, the slushy man turned his head toward me and grinned. It was the same smile. The grin was too wide, like the man outside the door last night. The kind of smile that felt wrong, as if his skin was stretching too far, like his mouth wasn't supposed to open that wide. My breath caught in my throat. I knew the rule. If a man in all black comes in and drinks from the slushy machine, let him. Do not speak to him. Do not acknowledge him. He will leave when he's done. I forced myself to back away, hands shaking. The slushy man turned toward the machine, bent down, and shoved his entire face under the nozzle again. The machine gurgled and whined as he sucked down more neon blue liquid. His hoodie darkened as slush soaked into the fabric. His hands twitched, and then the lights flickered. The radio turned to static. The temperature dropped, and somewhere in the back of the store, I heard knocking from inside the freezer. My pulse skyrocketed. I grabbed the counter for support, my breath coming out in short, panicked bursts. I squeezed my eyes shut, whispering to myself, "Not real, not real, not real." The knocking got louder. I checked the clock, 2:57 a.m. I knew what was coming. I had 3 minutes before it escalated. I turned back to the slushy man. He was staring at me now. His face was dripping blue. His mouth hung open like he was about to say something, but before he could, the front door slammed shut, and he was gone. No trace of him. No wet footprints. No slushy stains. Just nothing, as if he had never been there at all. But the knocking from the freezer? That was still happening. I backed up, shaking my head. Nope, I muttered, refusing to believe it. Then, a shadow moved behind the freezer glass. I bolted. I ducked behind the counter, humming loudly to drown out the sound. The knocking turned into pounding. I squeezed my eyes shut. 3 more minutes. The freezer doors rattled. Something scraped against the glass. I forced myself to check my phone. 2:59 a.m. 30 more seconds. The pounding stopped. I held my breath. Then the freezer door handle moved. My stomach dropped. It wasn't locked. The door creaked open. I grabbed the nearest thing, a plastic-wrapped taquito, and held it like a weapon. I didn't want to look. But something was stepping out of the freezer. Slow. Wet. A single pale hand reached around the doorframe. I wanted to run. I wanted to scream. Then my phone vibrated, 3 a.m. I blinked, and just like that, the hand was gone. The freezer was closed. The knocking had stopped, as if it had never happened. I didn't move for a solid 5 minutes. When I finally got the courage to peek over the counter, the store was normal again. Like nothing had happened. But I was done. I still had an hour left in my shift, but I didn't care. I clocked out, grabbed my board, and walked straight out the door. Larry could fire me. I didn't give a damn. But when I stepped outside, something stopped me. A feeling like I was being watched. I turned, and in the reflection of the glass doors, I saw a shadow standing behind me, tall, grinning, and covered in blue. I should have never come back. I knew I should have quit after what happened last night. The freezer, the slushy man, the damned shadow behind me in the glass. But against all logic, I found myself walking back through those quick trip doors for another shift. I didn't even skate to work this time. My legs felt too shaky. Larry was at the counter, barely looking up from his phone. "Man, you're persistent," he muttered. "I was pretty sure you'd quit after last night." I dropped my board behind the counter and exhaled. "Oh, I am quitting. Just need to get through this shift." Larry chuckled. "Sure. That's what they all say." I ignored him, clocked in, and braced myself for whatever fresh nightmare was about to unfold. I didn't even have to check the cameras this time. I felt it. That same icy chill in the air. That same pressure, like something was standing right behind me. I flipped to the aisle cameras, and there he was, the stander. Same spot as before. Aisle 3. Head down. Perfectly still. Only this time, there were 2 of them. My stomach flipped. I stepped back, my fingers gripping the counter. The second stander was facing the first one. They stood there, motionless, like 2 statues in a staring contest. I checked the time, 1:14 a.m. I should have gone to the back office. I knew the rule, but something was wrong. Their heads, they were tilting toward each other. Not like a normal head tilt. It was like their necks were stretching, pulling, like they were about to fuse together. I booked it to the office and slammed the door. I did not check the cameras again. 5 minutes passed. When I came back out, they were gone. But aisle 3? All the snacks had been ripped open like someone had. I didn't clean it up. I didn't even look at it. I just moved on. Things were quiet after that, too quiet. I knew it wouldn't last. At exactly 3 a.m., I caught my reflection in the freezer glass, and that was when I realized something was wrong. It wasn't copying me. I lifted my hand. It didn't. I turned my head. It stayed still. Then it smiled. Not a normal smile, but a slow, painful grin, like it was learning how to move its face for the first time. I stepped back. It did the same. Then, it lifted a hand. But it didn't just lift it, it reached toward me, like it was trying to pull me in. I ran straight to the bathroom, locked the door, and covered the mirror with paper towels. I stayed in there until 4 a.m. When I came back out, the freezer was normal again, but I refused to look at my reflection for the rest of the night. I was so close to being done. So damn close. Then, at 4:44 a.m., the radio flicked to static. Rule number 2. If the radio suddenly turns to static, change the station immediately. If the static doesn't go away, turn the radio off. If you hear a voice coming through the static, do not listen. Cover your ears and wait until it stops. I grabbed the dial and turned it. Nothing but more static. I turned it again. Still static. I reached for the power button, and that's when I heard it, a voice, low and scratchy, whispering through the static. "Bruce, don't leave us." I slapped my hands over my ears and hummed louder, trying to block it out. But the voice kept talking. "You belong here now." "We all do." My chest tightened. The air in the store felt thicker, like it was pressing down on me. The static grew louder. Then it stopped. The radio went silent. I uncovered my ears, my heart hammering in my chest. I turned around. Standing in the aisle was every single person I had seen over the last 4 nights. The stander. The slushy man. The man at the door. The woman who disappeared at 4:44. All of them. Standing perfectly still, watching me. And then, all at once, they smiled. I didn't stay for Larry to show up. I didn't even clock out. I grabbed my board and ran out the door. I skated home faster than I ever had in my life. Bohannon was waiting for me, meowing like he hadn't been fed in days. I picked him up and just sat there on the floor, shaking. That was the last time I ever set foot in Quick Trip. Larry texted me the next day. "Larry, yo, you good? You didn't show up tonight. I knew you wouldn't last." I blocked his number. I never went back. Instead, I picked up my camera, went back to the skate park, and started filming again. The YouTube channel took a while to recover, but eventually the views came back. I started posting again, editing tricks, hanging with my friends, living my actual life. But sometimes, late at night, when I'm alone, I still get that feeling, that heavy, suffocating pressure, like I'm being watched. And sometimes, when I check my phone, I see a notification, an anonymous comment on one of my skate videos. 3 words. See you soon.